I stand
Yeah,
here?
yeah, because it's got a wide angle lens
Okay, great.
on it. So my name's Jeff.
I'm Luke.
Luke, good
Yeah.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so what do you think? What do you think happens?
Oh, you're not going to...
Yeah.
I thought you would ask me the
Or
question
no.
again to set me up for the
Okay.
video, but that's okay.
Yeah, I always do it the same way, so, most people know that. But I'll ask. So what do you think happens after we die, if anything, and
Sure.
how did you get there? So
How did I get there in terms of, how did I decide upon that?
I'll ask more like what were some of your, the milestones, your experiences in life, that sort of thing. So.
Well, I agree that everyone dies, and I think that personally what is going to happen to me is that I'm just going to be connected to the world or universe in a different way.
Okay.
So it's sort of like a transcendental idea. I feel I consider myself like a transcendental agnostic, right? I feel like there's a greater something happening in our universe.
And it sounds like you believe there's more to you than your body.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you have a spirit or some
But and I don't know how it works, but I'm very cool with just somehow I'm going to still be connected to everything.
Yeah.
Right now, the way I'm connected to everything is very physically, right?
Yeah.
But when I die, something else is going to happen, and I don't know. But I don't feel worried. I feel like I'm going to be connected in a different way.
Yeah. Now, did you grow up in a religious tradition then?
Yes,
or?
my parents were both Catholics. My grandmother on my mom's side was very devout in terms of the amount of service that she put in to her community, and also the amount of prayer that she experienced. It was a part of her daily life.
Yeah.
And so I was raised in that tradition, and there's a lot of cool ideas. But I think that ultimately I'm not a joiner. I don't like joining groups or saying that yes, I agree with you and I'm going to be part of your group. So
so you're not for organized religion, I guess?
It's not just organized religion. I don't even like team sports very much.
Okay.
And I think it's less about following rules. I mean, I think my favorite part about being a Catholic is that when I was a kid was that I had great teachers who were argue the point. Nothing's set in, there's sure we say this thing, but let's argue about it. Let's figure out what are ways that we can come to terms with it or understand it or reject it because we don't because the argument doesn't work for you or for us or for our community.
Well, it sounds like they were trying to teach you to think critically, maybe.
Yeah. I feel like that the folks that I was with, they weren't very along the lines of maybe other even Catholic churches or other places where they're it's very much no, this is what you have to believe, and this is that wasn't my experience.
Yeah.
So I think that's great.
Yeah.
But I had
so it was positive experience.
It was a positive experience. I just was but me saying I joined your group wasn't something that when I was to the point where I was old enough to choose on my own. I was I choose not. I choose I don't.
And how old would that be? Were you still living at
16,
home?
17, yeah, 16 or 17 years old.
Yeah.
And my parents were just okay.
Yeah.
They were that was for them, but they were if it's not for you, maybe someday you'll come back to it. And interestingly enough, I don't know, maybe not interesting to me personally.
Sure.
Is that neither of them attend church and haven't for 15, 20 years. They also grew further away from their organized going to church.
Well, more than likely, because I talk to a lot of people, I get the kind of the history, right?
Sure.
So they were probably at a point where it's okay, we need to raise our children in the church so they get the right morals and values.
Yeah.
But then as far as we pretty much got it. So
exactly.
Once they're out of the house, it's we don't have to go back anymore.
I think it was like that. And then their marriage grew apart. They're divorced now.
Oh, okay.
And went on to be with other people who weren't actively involved in a church. So I think that had something to do with it.
Do you feel like you're kind of mirroring the times as far as there is an exodus from church? There's there's fewer and fewer people who are identifying with religion.
I think that
because there was a time when it was like the cool thing to do.
It was a cool thing to do.
The expected thing.
Expected. I think for some people it was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I think it's less about not wanting to be part of religion and more about not wanting to be part of, you have so many options for how you choose your communities now.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
And I feel like people are choosing other ways to connect with their communities. Like, I still have social groups, and I still have friends, and, I feel like I'm doing a lot in terms of, it's not really giving back to taking care of my community, taking care of people. I always use the phrase, I need to get people's backs, because if I get their backs and they get my back, then we're all, we're going to all be more successful together.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter if it's a stranger or, somebody you live with. You want to try to take care of people and help them when you can help them, right?
I think you're right about the community thing too, especially when you think about Chicago and all the different neighborhoods that were organized around a church.
Yeah.
A lot of them were immigrant neighborhoods.
Sure.
It's like, how are we going to connect in this new country?
Absolutely. Right.
Around the local parish,
right. Yeah, and I feel like, and many times church leaders are people that are helping you make those connections, not just to your spiritual life, but also to I know, this guy's the dentist. You need to if you went to church, you could immediately figure out navigate what's going on.
Yeah.
And I still think that happens. I just, I have other resources now for that. There's parent chat groups, and I have a bunch of friends. It's and so I feel like that's where I get away from just the idea of I just don't want to join
the need for
I don't need to go to your building and hang out and I mean, because there's some very cool I live in Hyde Park, and there's churches in Hyde Park that are very non organized religion. It's more we're coming together to because it's a place to have this community and to do good works and to help people out. And so
interestingly, there's actually secular humanist
groups
now that are organized like a church.
Sure, yeah. My wife is definitely
get together for fellowship and stuff.
Yeah, my wife identifies as an ethical humanist.
Okay.
She's an atheist, but she's when she says she's an atheist, people are well, then what do you believe in? And she's ethical humanism. And I'm that seems like a great thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I do too. But I still think that there's something more spiritual, connected. I don't know what it is. There's a great poem called Thanatopsis. I don't know if you've ever read it.
No.
I think it's William. No, it's what's his name? It's not. It's William Jennings Bryan.
Okay, that sounds very familiar.
Yeah, right.
Should know him.
Early 1900s populist. But he also wrote. I think that's who it is.
Okay.
Wrote some poems. It's called Thanatopsis, and it's just this whole idea of when I look at the world, I can't believe that things aren't connected. Everything seems connected in some way, and I can find connections.
Yeah.
So he's so when I die, I feel like that doesn't end. I'll still be connected somehow.
Yeah.
Is
there anything about what your understanding of Christianity through Catholicism, just what you know of the Bible or anything that if God... if it's true that there's a personal God who has a sense, determines morality,
right,
and gives us a conscience, a sense of right and wrong, and holds us accountable to it,
right?
How do you feel about that? Would you want to? I'm guessing that you don't believe that you'll have a conscious existence.
No, I mean maybe, but who knows, right?
Right.
Yeah. I don't.
So I think, would you want eternal life, and with your Creator, would you want to be?
No, I don't think that's. I mean, and I don't think that it's this idea of. I feel like we're trying to put a set of human emotions and ideas on what could be a spiritual force, God is we say he, right?
Yeah.
It's I don't think so. That doesn't make sense. That's a construct that we made up. It doesn't even make sense that we use the word he and she necessarily. We just made those constructs up.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why I'm more like, there's connection, but like whatever we think it is, like that's just like, it's great if that's what somebody wants to believe, and like that helps them through their day, and like maybe that's what's going to happen, but it doesn't seem likely.
Do you think the Bible is pretty just much a man-made group of documents? I mean, it's like a library.
Sure. I mean
that's the only option you would have, really.
Right, that's right. And like, but like the stories in the Bible were told for purpose. Like people were like, I think this is important. This is how I want to share this idea.
Yeah.
But it's, in my mind, it's no more or less important than like reading like poetry that's written today. Like there's really smart people who make amazing things.
Other than the fact that it's withstood the test of time.
Right. Well,
it's
so
really
is
affected
Beowulf,
history.
right?
And,
so as like there's like so many things. Like there's Chinese literature that's been around for 5,000, 6,000 years.
Yeah.
The story of Sagacious Liu, like
Sound
the
like
wandering
you're
monk.
Quite a reader.
I am quite a reader. This wandering monk, who like wandered around and fought with people, and like, his whole thing, the whole story has been around for thousands and thousands of years. But he's like, the moral of the story is like as long as you have a code and you live by a code, that you somehow are doing okay in life, right?
Yeah.
And it was this whole idea of like, stick to a code.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily the best code for everyone, but it worked for him.
Yeah.
And so, like that stood the test of time. People still read it today.
Yeah.
So, and it's just an interesting idea. Like, is that all you need? Is if you stick to a code, like, and you don't deviate from that, even if you don't make the best decisions all the time, or the decisions that are going to help the most people all the time, is there like a respect that we have to have for that kind of person?
Right. Do you feel like there's consequences to our good or bad behavior in life? Well, what do you think that would be? It wouldn't be, like heaven or hell kind of thing, or
no. Well, if everything's connected, that maybe there's karma. I don't know if there's like cosmic karma, right?
Yeah.
But I also think that the consequences are manifest in how other humans are going to relate and talk with you and be with you and understand you in your life, right? What connections do you get based on your behavior? And if you want positive connections, you're going to change your behavior. And then I also think that it's in you, like your own happiness is dependent on the choices that you make. And
so it's just kind of like a natural consequences. It's not imposed by
I think the consequence,
else.
like guilt, is a worse consequence than like, I'm going to send you to this fiery place. It's like, whatever. Like, I feel terrible that I hurt someone. That to me is worse than
maybe that is physical. The fiery place.
It could be, right? And you experience it. So you're experiencing
the full extent of it,
right?
You know?
Sure. Or you experience it your whole life, like, people forgive, but you have to live with that.
Yeah.
And they're like, people compartmentalize and do whatever they need to do, but I don't know. I feel like that's if you care at all about other people, right? And sure, there's stuff that says like there are like people whose brains, they don't care about other people, right?
I guess like psycho,
right?
Yeah.
And eventually, like humans then have to then be like, wow, we caught you doing these terrible things, and we see that you have no remorse and you have no way to come back from that.
Yeah.
We have to like restrict you from being
I think
terrible.
we definitely need rules and punishments to make society
right. Otherwise,
right.
It's just chaos
So I'm a evangelical Christian.
Okay,
I don't know if you're so obviously not Catholic,
right?
But
sure,
I would approach the Bible very differently, and that is like the whole anthropomorphic ideas about God.
Sure,
it's more like God made us in His image and reveals Himself to us. So like, just to let you know how I would deal with some of these different issues, like, how can I refer to God as a He, right?
Right.
Well, that's how He's presented and presents Himself through the pages of the Bible. And then And then even, for example, Jesus says, when you pray to your Father in heaven. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like I didn't make it up.
No,
but
I mean, but humans did.
Well, that's what, you know, as an you know, the understanding. And actually, I have to say, like, reading the Bible lately, I mean, it's a regular practice for me.
Okay.
And lately, I've really been noticing how much the Bible says, and God said, you know, and the Lord says. And so it's really making some claims about itself, that it's more than just human. And this is like consistent throughout the Bible.
Right. Yeah, good storytellers
through all
are
the
good
different,
at that.
I mean, but there's so many different, many different storytellers, so many different authors, and there's this consistency in there, which
No, but I mean, but good storytellers know. Like, I've studied storytelling too, and it's like, you want to be consistent, right? And if I'm going to compile stuff, oh my gosh, I better like make sure that like this fits with this, and like the more contradictions or the more ways that it doesn't seem like it's all coming from the same place is going to make a weak story.
Yeah. Have you ever studied like the history of the Bible, where it came from, things like that?
No, like, you know, like, who knows? I probably have like super vague knowledge that's based on Monty Python, and like I'm like not gonna even try.
I mean, I'm actually a high school history teacher.
Oh, nice, cool.
You know, like, so
where do you teach?
Like in back of the arts.
Oh yeah, nice, cool. I teach. I'm a teacher. I teach math down in Hyde Park.
Oh really?
Yeah.
CPS then?
CPS.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where?
I'm wearing red.
Which?
It's
at
Friday.
Kenwood?
No, I teach 7th and 8th graders. I teach at Ray Elementary.
Okay.
Yeah.
My son teaches at Kenwood. So.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all my kids went there.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
So
awesome.
I'm familiar with Hyde Park.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I do try to. I guess I get in these conversations, and I do want to challenge people.
Yeah.
And so my challenge for you would be to revisit the Bible. I don't know when you've last read from it. Most people's opinions of the Bible are usually based on someone else's opinions.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last time I read it, to be honest, it had to have been over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was for a class that I was taking called comparative literature.
Yeah. So, one of the high schools I used to teach at, they taught the Bible as literature.
Yeah.
And so you're making these presumptions that yes, these are works of man, and they're written for these purposes.
Sure.
And so I would read it totally different if I read it with you know. So I read it, like, for example, let me give you another example. I think probably the most obvious example.
I'm not being rude. It might be important. I'd like to check on my family life.
Yeah, and
we're good.
I'll make it quick, but God repeatedly says, "I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God."
Oh yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so it's like, how can God be jealous? Now that's a very man-centered emotion.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And the thing, the way I would look at it then would be to say, well, if God was like a man, that's jealousy is a pretty pathetic, petty emotion. You know, it's almost like saying, I need to be your world.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah.
And your world needs to revolve around me, and if it doesn't, I'm going to be jealous. Right?
Yeah, sure.
But if God truly is God and has the right to be our world, you know, to be the one that holds the whole world together, then jealousy makes sense. See what I'm saying? So if we approach it from the man-centered point of view, that man has kind of constructed this God.
Okay.
He's constructed a God in his own image, and this God is jealous, and it doesn't make sense. But if God truly is God, then he would have the right to be these things that is presented, and the anger.
That's an interesting way to come at it.
So I try. So the idea, you know, like in with human knowledge, there's scientific knowledge. There's knowledge where we discover things on our own.
Oh yeah.
There's critical knowledge where we dissect literature. But the Bible is, in my view, meant to be revealed knowledge, where God is revealing himself through the pages of history. Now, I'm not a literalist as far as like every single word of the Bible is you know, like, should direct my paths, because it wasn't all written to me. It was written to the Jewish people, for example. There's a lot of Jewish history in there.
Yeah.
You know, so
I think that's interesting. You know, and it's like I had a very I had what we call a very religious roommate in college. And we had lots of conversations like this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he always came back to was, like the thing that you said about revealing reminds me of something that he would talk about, is that his faith, Christian, was like, he didn't use the word revealed, but he used that he felt like moved. Like there was something had like moved him. Like he felt this like this movement or like connection as he was understanding, like reading the Bible or praying, and I was like that.
I think I can relate.
Yeah, I like the idea of revealed. That's cool.
Yeah,
and it's like that hasn't happened for me, right?
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, go back and read it, and like maybe
Check
it will.
out.
right? You know, it's like
for me, it's what I call it is it's an inner confirmation. That's the way I put it.
Yeah.
Yes, this is truth. You know.
Sure. No, I hear you.
And I'll even say this: like, I became a Christian. I grew up Lutheran. But I really don't feel like I had that personal connection to God until in my late teens. And so I would say I had this born again experience.
Sure.
But it wasn't so much like, okay, God, I'm Jesus, I'm going to accept you in my heart.
Sure.
I'm going to make this decision for you.
Yeah.
It was more like waking up and realizing that, yes, I do believe.
Yeah. Right.
And I was in a position where I was hearing the message.
Sure.
So it was like, well, what do I believe? Well, I believe
that's
this
cool.
message.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that's a great way to put it. And I feel like the way you put that makes it sound less, in my mind, right? I'm always leery of people who are like, their born again experience is like,
I made this decision.
Yeah, or that now God is now like somehow shaping, like, and controlling things, and like you've totally given up, that you are making choices, and like, right, and like that's like, no, that's like, but the way you describe it, that seems more like
it's like it's a part of me I can't deny.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, yes, I do believe this, and
I hear you.
If this is all true, then I need to live it out.
Right,
you know?
And you have to like think about it and like make it part of your daily like experience.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And as well as, you know, like I love to have these kind of conversations.
Sure.
At the same time, I don't want to shove anything down anyone's throat.
Right.
So I just feel like, hey, let's just open up the lines of communication and talk. You know?
I think you're doing good too, because like if you teach history and you have to like question students, like you're doing a good job of being like, well, no, think, like, I challenge you, try to think about it this way, and not like, no, that's not the way it should be. Like, so it's good. Asking questions, I think, is a good way to come at folks.
Yeah, with the new Common Core, I don't know if you.
I know Common Core. CPS, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, for history, it's more like determine, you know, like thinking, having reason, having an opinionated, forming your own opinions, but then showing the reasons for those opinions.
Yeah.
So being an informed person and thinking critically and rationally.
That's how I teach math. So I think it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Well, this was cool, man. But I got stuff starting to melt.
I'm going to give you something. You don't have to accept it, but check this out. I don't give this to everyone, but if you're a reader, this it's an apologetic book. Are you familiar with that term, apologetics?
Not really.
Apologetics means a defense of the Christian faith.
Okay.
So we don't hear too many defenses of Christianity. It's almost like if you're a Christian, you just kind of accept it, and if you're a non-Christian, you've got all these reasons why you shouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, what are some reasons why we do believe as Christians? And it goes into like, where did the Bible come from and stuff like that.
Okay.
Too. So
I might look at it.
I think it might help.
I pick up books all the time and read. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
So so I got the YouTube channel.
Sure.
And this is where I go to church, but this is...
The channel's on here?
Yeah, right there, and that's my number. I'd love to... Love to talk more.
That's awesome. I love this project, too. Just this idea of, like, let's talk.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
I do, too. I learn so much from people.
Yeah.
I like to kind of dig into people's experiences. And
I think it's a great way to do it. I mean, I'm sorry. It's kind of awesome that we did it in the chip aisle, too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
You wouldn't expect that.
You wouldn't expect it. All right,
All right, thanks, Luke. All right.